Ho, ho, ho to everyone. Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. Yes, it's that part of the year again. You as well. Merry Christmas. Mate, luckily swinging it to you as well. And Merry Christmas as well. Plans prepared for 15 minutes minimum. Minimum. What do you mean? Minimum. Minimum what? And Johnny. Hey, Johnny, Merry Christmas to you as well. Let me just, why is that not clicking? Ah, now it is. Jay Ducky just dropped in to say, have a Merry Christmas to you as well, mate. Yeah, that was the whole purpose of basically just Richard. It's still morning here. It's 10:30. I know it's you guys are 2 hours ahead from us over the pond, but yes. BT Elzoon. For people new to keto diet, do you think keto flu symptoms are commonly caused by eating too much red meat? No, no, unless you've got a tick bite recently, that could cause certain symptoms, but otherwise, nope. And if you improve, um, usually it's digestive issues, really, normally it's digestive issues that usually cause a lot of these issues. Gallbladder issues are well known, stomach acid issues, all these sort of things. There is a playlist covering all these things called digestive issues. Just go through it, check it out. You'll find a lot of information in there and probably symptoms. On a live stream, you can't diagnose people. Just remember that. And then you can leave me a comment, and then I'll give you a far more detailed, sometimes a very winded explanation or to specific video to watch or clip, whatever that provides the information. Will adding taurine help with keto flu? Possibly. If it's electrolyte based, yes. If it's not, no. So it depends, as I said, not possible to diagnose people on. Now, those are sort of consultancy things. Basically, be properly diagnosed and all that. But Kay does those. I used to with a day job. Maybe I'll get back into them when when I'm retired. But at this stage, and depending on if I pick up habits when I retire, I have some business ideas. So I may not be as free even then. You know, GP is calling for a good natural vitamin D supplement. It does have vitamin D, can be useful. You can buy from Iceland. I usually sometimes buy, like actual cod liver in its own um, sort of unprocessed stuff like that. So, do you have any brand off the top of my head? I can't remember the brand. Um, University Spirit Whisper. I mean, if you want a specific cod liver oil, Rosita is probably the best quality if you're going to use a cod liver oil. So there it is. Let me whack that into the. There it is. It's in the chat. So that's probably the best company out there in terms of product quality, third party testing, and many other things. And a lot of the naturopaths also use it. So a lot of them have actually done third-party testing independently themselves. So it's a pretty good brand in that regard. Yep, just get, as long as it's coconut-based, coconut or MCT. There's a lot of brands that Sports Research is probably the popular one that a lot of my subscribers use. Um, and you can get that on Amazon. You can get it on most sites. I heard many other places. Just look around for Sports Research. Vitamin D, 5,000 IUs. If you're indoors or continuously, that's probably the bare minimum you need. You'll get some from the food. You'll probably all up, probably get to 6 or 7. Should be fine for a young person with a youthful immune system. Yeah, well, you thinking that you're deficient isn't the same thing as checking. I would get my levels checked. There's a lot of kits now you can get online to check your your levels, your vitamin D levels. It's not like in the old days you had to go to a doctor. So there's options in that regard. Gabrielle, too little what? Interesting. Merry Christmas to you, the crowd watching. Thanks, Lamps. Oh, eventually the Gabrielle Merry Christmas came through. Good, good, good. The audio is cutting out on my side. Anyone else experiencing this? Anyone out there? Okay. Uh, I actually did reboot because I had to do an update, a Windows update, but we just make sure that the audio settings are not. Is that better? Is that coming through much better? Is that better, guys? Just tell me whether it's better or not. Okay, good, good. Yeah, it actually reverted away from this to a different microphone for whatever reason. So I did have to bolt out of the actual StreamYard, then do the reboot, then come back, and that may have had something to do with it. Don't know. Gee. When you're fully carnivore, does your body still replenish your glycogen stores in the liver and muscles? If so, what extent? Fully. There's no difference. They've actually done the experiments with people on low carb, ketogenic type diets, where zero sugar coming in from the diet, and the glycogen levels and all that are pretty much. Gluconeogenesis covers that. Gluconeogenesis doesn't require much energy at all. It's basically not only demand driven, but also it's it's a hydrolysis process. So the amount of Gibbs free energy required in the process of hydrolysis is close to zero, which means it's like a cascading effect down a waterfall. So it doesn't even require like to ramp up energy and because you know that energy is being ramped up by the amount of Gibbs free energy that gets released, so that you from the photons that that it actually can be measured. So that's how we know that when ATP is produced, you see a certain rise in Gibbs free energy as, as the rate of ATP increases or decreases, so does Gibbs free energy within the mitochondria. Exactly the same thing is happening with glycolysis. When you've actually undertaken glycolysis or beta oxidation, you do see a certain level of Gibbs free energy. When you actually do gluconeogenesis, you don't. It's a hydrolysis process. It's very low in energy requirement, so to speak, in the system. Forget about the hormones. The hormones are basically signaling and telling the body, we need more glucose, produce it. That's what, cortisol plays a lot of different roles. That's one of its roles, like insulin. Insulin doesn't only store things in the fat cells, it stores things in the musculoskeletal. It signals other things as well in the body. These hormones play multiple roles. Unfortunately, we've been indoctrinated by low-carb community, low-fat community, all these different communities to demonize hormones or view them in that they are primarily doing one thing. They're doing multiple things. Depending on what is in there, the dawn effect is the obvious thing that actually just gives that away. A slight rise in cortisol signaling, telling the body to release a whole lot of free fatty acid and glucose into the bloodstream to get the person going, So, and then it comes down by 11 o'clock, but still the ramping up of gluconeogenesis, if you don't eat for a tribal person, and free fatty acids continues rising without the signaling anymore. The signaling has done its job, told the body what to do because of the circadian rhythms. So these whole bizarre nonsense that people have out there, as if you need to eat glucose to basically get glycogen. It's just nonsense. If you eat glucose, you raise insulin. Insulin counteracts glucagon. Glucagon gets lower. As a consequence, you can't produce as much unless you get into a diabetic state where both are elevated. And then you're actually, because they have to. See, what do people say? Oh, one actually works against the other. No, they don't. Because in diabetics, both are up. If they were counteracting each other, that's signaling for certain things to do. This is signaling for other things to do, And in a different dietary state, you can get them in a different ratio, the insulin to glucagon ratio. But that doesn't mean that one is basically just hammering the other in some sort of bizarre way. No, the signaling that happens is appropriate for what is coming in, the inputs and outputs. It's a system, remember. And that system has a lot of signaling and a lot of components. And those molecules will have an effect. So it's a more dynamic thing that people seem to want to use reductionism to sort of make out certain things are really important. That's because they're pushing certain narratives. So it's just nonsense. The amount of Gibbs free energy involved in gluconeogenesis is so little that it's sometimes people use it in biochemistry. They'll say it's practically zero. It's not, but it is extremely low because you're using hydrolysis enzymes to basically produce, which don't require, because water enzymes really don't require much energy to basically do their job. And that's why it's not taxing to the system, gluconeogenesis, at all. It's fine. If it didn't exist, then I'd say, yep, we need carbs. But since it exists, that argument goes out the door completely. So our bodies, Steve Finney and Jeff Volker, who are low-carb doctors, they've actually done a lot of experiments on athletes where they lock them up in labs. This is the top quality research. Can't get any better than that. And they basically show quite clearly that that's not the case. Your glycogen remains pretty good. This is the other advantage of being on a low-carb diet. You don't bonk. anybody that is an athlete knows what bonking means. You've depleted your glycogen stores and all that. Why? Because you've got elevated insulin, because you're taking down carbs while you're, all the gels and stuff like that. And so you can't access your fat. But if you're in a low carb state, you don't bonk. You're bonk proof because you're still getting free fatty acids for all the peripheral tissue, muscles, and everything else. And you're producing as much glucose as you require through gluconeogenesis, which, as I said, it's a hydrolysis enzymatic sort of process, which does not require a lot of energy, and it just basically provides what the body needs for the brain and red blood cells and certain other tissues that require a certain amount. So, not an issue, completely a non-issue. People just like to create problems out of nothing. Tom! I always sound quite right. You should know that, Tom. Inf. Bad audio. Yes, that's been corrected. You could say also Merry Christmas. And everybody else on that. Can citrulline help with tinnitus, or does it need to be nice and specific? No, it's always been taurine. Now, obviously, citrulline can help a bit as well in terms of improving the vasodilation of, because there are, in the ear, obviously there can be some level of potential damage, hypoxia, whatever, fibrosis. Taurine's going to reduce that fibrotic sort of situation and tends to basically, me doing high dose of taurine for a very long time got rid of my tinnitus. I used to have tinnitus as well in my early 40s, I'd say, late 30s or early 40s and all that. I no longer have tinnitus. So call it an anecdote of one, but there are other people on the carnivore diet that seem to still get it on and off. And the only research that I could actually find was on taurine with rats curing their tinnitus. So it seems through a number of different processes. One thing within the brain, you can produce new stem cells, and also some of the actual immune cells can actually become slightly pro-inflammatory. Well, taurine actually switches them off in the other direction. So there's all these mechanisms that are actually, and obviously, eyes and ears and all that are very close to brain tissue. And I suspect there is some interaction there that's happening, and potentially some, not only dealing with the fibrosis, possibly because we did see in the rats some level of healing. So is that also affecting stem cells in those tissues? We know it does it in the brain, the taurine. Not so much. It actually repairs and reduces senescent cells in the peripheral tissue, but specifically in the brain, it actually helps with new neurons in that regard. And that's another reason why mummy's milk is just full of it, exactly full of it, to help those little kitties grow big brains. Yeah, so that's my long-winded explanation. Ben, Merry Christmas as well, mate. More about the sound. Better. And Lukey, g'day, Lukey. Merry Christmas to you, mate. And more about the sound, until we get to Nathan. Merry Christmas to you as well, mate. And all our super subscribers on this channel. Yes. Invite. My 69-year-old aunt has been diagnosed with diabetic retinopathy, cataracts. Do you have any advice on how she might improve or reverse her condition? I'd need to know more. What's her medical situation? what drugs she takes, because there are a number of things that it could actually interact with. So you can take up to 2 grams safely, as long as you're not on certain drugs like calcium channel blockers, which in particular the blood pressure meds, because they're interacting on the same pathway that taurine does. So you can't put them together. One has to go. Simple as that. It does actually improve retinopathy, because the eye is one of the organs in the body that has one of the highest amounts of DHA and taurine. So obviously, I'd get a high quality, cod liver oil like Rosita, which I've already put the link in the description. For her, that's probably going to be safe even with meds. Citrulline would be a good idea, but citrulline also reduces blood pressure, so that affects. So you have to really start very low, like a gram, and see how she goes, and then get adjustments. The same thing with taurine. You can introduce it, but you go very low, like half a gram per meal with a meal. She gets 3 meals. That will also lower slightly her blood pressure and lower her blood sugar. And then you can check with a doctor to make sure everything's fine. Then you can actually go slightly up, another half a gram, just go half a gram till you get to 2 grams, 6 grams per day. If you notice she's got any, I don't know, does she have any sensitivity to sulfur, like eggs and things like that? If so, then you may need to put choline, but choline, you never go over 2 grams. I know the top is 3. That can cause some side effects, flatulence, and many other number of things, in some issues, people, nausea and things like that. The body has a certain physiological requirement above that. So, as a therapeutic dose, 2 grams is the top that I recommend anyway. And that can actually methylate away, but also can help with a lot of other processes. But as I said, with all supplementations, you've got to know what the meds are. So leave me a comment and find out exactly all her meds, and I can give you a much more precise approach to it, and also the steps she needs to take as she transitions to certain supplements, so we don't get any adverse effects, because we don't want that. We never recommend adverse effects on this channel. We're always playing it safe. GP Man, hi Harry. Do you think Cerule will help regenerate new cells after a stroke? Taurine will do a better job. Taurine will do a far better job. Cerule is fine for all the peripheral tissue, for all the tissue in the body. In that regard, you're creating new stem cells. But taurine has an advantage. One, it reduces the senescence. That means the aging of the immune system, immune cells and normal cells. So you get more bang for your bucks throughout the whole body. And you also get the biggest damage when you have a heart attack or you have a stroke is reblood perfusion, when there's hypoxia and then blood runs back in, and at that point there's a lot of oxygenation that comes in, and because you've got a lot of free electrons flying all over the place, and a lot of tissue that's basically in a very oxidative state, and you basically hit it with a whole lot of oxygen molecules, it amplifies the damage as a consequence. So most of the damage happens after the stroke, not at the time of the stroke or the heart attack. So most fibrosis, most damage and stuff like that to the tissue. What taurine does is actually reduce the effect and also improves the outcome of people who have had strokes or heart attacks. Like myself, who had a heart attack many years ago, pretty much I no longer have any fibrosis in my heart. That's technically considered impossible, but who cares what they think? I looked at the rat studies. I treated myself as a rat, well, I didn't cage myself, just free living rat, and pretty much got rid of my fibrosis, but it took about a decade. Rome wasn't built in a day, guys. So, yes, it takes time to heal after you've had severe damage. Just remember that. And all of us, to some extent have some damage where we're still healing. I'm still healing. All of us are still trying to reduce my deuterium levels and a whole lot of other things. But, but his life, so to speak. Now, where am I? Sarah, Merry Christmas to you as well, and best wishes to your family. Deuterium-depleted products necessary if you are dealing with cancer. It's useful. It's definitely useful. You definitely want to lower everything which is high in deuterium. You want to get rid of deuterium stuff and bring it down to the lowest level. But there are other strategies as well, like senolytics. I mean, I have a whole playlist on cancer providing a whole lot of information of biohacks and all sorts of things. Deuterium depletion is a good way. I would definitely fork out some money to get deuterium depleted water and use it for a period of time, as long as you can afford it. I mean, but I would combine it with taurine because the two work together. One reduces the deuterium load in your body, and the other heals at the mitochondrial level, reducing the oxidative stress, regulating some of the enzymes involved in repairing, and upregulating melatonin in the mitochondria, which heals the electrolyte and the ATPase, which is that little nanomotor that rotates at a maximum of 9,000 RPM. But anyway, so check out my stuff and some of the biohacks. Have you done Jabba the Hutt? If you've done Jabba the Hutt, do not use taurine because you will have a suppressed immune system and it won't work. So you need to do, so if you've done Jabba the Hutt, leave me a comment and I will put you a link, the protocol you need to do to clear all that garbage out, and then the steps you need to take. So we suppress, because my father did that. Naughty boy, naughty George. But anyway, he did that, but he didn't get explosive cancer as we're seeing at the moment. And that's because he got on the protocol, and I made sure he strictly observed it. So he was under my tight supervision. Let's say that. Basically, I harassed him for a couple of months until he complied clearly. Anyway, he's still alive. That's the main thing. And his cancer's actually halved. So that's a testament of my harassment. I don't have a study to prove that actually works. He just basically was too scared. That helps as well. Fear. Yes, I would get rid of all that garbage as well. Agreed. Totally. Yes, the poisonous garbage, especially refined carbs and seed oils, which are high in deuterium, which causes the problem in the first place. A lot of these problems. Questions? Question. The whole word. ITX. Will exposure to infrared light help with breast cancer? Let us say more melatonin. It helps. It helps. But remember, vitamin D is very important in breast cancer, in prostate cancer. It's the key cofactor in the cell proliferation. So the person who may have the cancer needs to basically have really good vitamin D status. It's critical. If you don't have a good vitamin D status, you're not going to have a strong immune system. I've been Angus now there's this British academic, Angus, I forget his last name now. He's John Campbell actually has him on very often, and he talks about vitamin D, the importance in terms of supporting the immune system, the T lymphocytes. and all that. If you go back all the way to my early C19 videos and all the way through from my early days of my videos, you'll hear me talking about T lymphocytes, T cells, and how important it is to basically, because they are the ones that actually kill off cancer cells. They are the ones that actually protect you from every foreign thing that comes into your body. That line of defense, that, the natural killer cells that go after all this. To be properly regulated, you've got to have good vitamin D status. You also have to have taurine, because vitamin D actually is important in order for stem cells to produce these things. In the thymus, guess the important thing is taurine. That's why carnivore diet is indicated, because it produces more taurine. It provides methionine and cysteine, which your pancreas produces. So if you've got diabetes as well, you may not be able to synthesize sufficient taurine endogenously in your body, because you've got pre-diabetes or diabetes and some damage to your pancreas. It's not functioning properly. So, supplementation would be indicated for that. But then again, there's the Jabba the Hutt thing that actually really skews the stuff at the moment. So that's the other thing is, so people have done a lot of these sort of things. That's why I have to bring it up so people realise. And I have done a video recently that actually covers that as well. Any of my moderators can throw that video in so I don't have to search for it. Anyway, do you have any nutritional advice for liver cirrhosis? I would be, but clean diet is basically the key thing. Clean diet. Eggs are really good because they've got choline, and choline is really good for exporting fat out of the liver and improving both the functioning of the liver and the actual gallbladder. The other one is taurine, very important as well for this sort of thing, because it has an anti-fibrotic effect. Other supplements are milk thistle, which has also got really important things. Short-term use of R, as in R for rat, alpha lipoic acid, which is the more what is called the natural one, as they call it, some people. That's what I would use, because that is a massive electron donor, but you don't want to have something like that in your system for too long either. So you take it for about 6 months, and that is a big scavenger, and it helps. But you'd need to clean the diet, obviously, for liver cirrhosis. Other people may have methylation issues. Are you getting enough riboflavin? Because if you're not getting enough riboflavin, I've done a video 4 years ago. It's called Methylation Part 1. It covers exactly for the MTHFR people that have got this methylation issue. It's riboflavin. Dairy products and meats are high in riboflavin. They're the best sources. So an animal diet again is indicated, and most pathways for rare diseases and all that are riboflavin dependent. Again, animal-based diet is important to get sufficient riboflavin. Short term, you can supplement riboflavin to deal with those sort of issues. But you need to get rid of the junk. Simple as that. I have to get back to the wagon. Been eating lots of junk lately. Not nice. Sarah, you bad girl. I'll have to send Ted around to give you a good spanking. I don't know who will enjoy that more, him or you. Do you think angiogenesis in cancer basically a cell survival mechanism? It's overrated. It's overrated. Angiogenesis happens when you have an injury anywhere, not even in cancer situations. So if angiogenesis was the driver, when we suppress angiogenesis with drugs, do we get elimination of cancer? No, because it's a natural process in the body. It's a reparative process to bring blood to tissue and all that. So suppressing, doesn't really do much to, and sometimes when you do a whole lot of mechanisms to suppress cancer, to prevent cancer from proliferating, it sometimes does, because for survival reasons, it goes metastatic and all that. So, well, how do you deal with cancer? You don't deal with cancer by trying to suppress, as they say. That doesn't work. What you need to do is reduce the damage in the body. So even in cancer cells, you need to reduce the deuterium levels that are continuing to damage the mitochondria, and then, because it's a mitochondrial disease, damage, and then the signaling that actually tells it to go rogue. So a lot of these cancer cells can revert back to a senescent state and then be taken out by the immune system. You've got to have a strong immune system to take them out. If you don't have sufficient, if you've got immunosenescence, that's another reason for taurine, because it reverses immunosenescence. So a carnivore diet that actually provides more, as long as you've got a pancreas that bloody works properly. Most people who are sick like this tend to not have a good pancreas. That is why I recommend supplementation of taurine under those circumstances. 2 things. But if you've done Jabba the Hutt, certain pathways are suppressed, immune pathways are suppressed, and then taurine doesn't work. And it may even do the opposite under certain circumstances. Because like anything, a cancer or a normal cell can use anything in the body. If you'd have to take everything out in order to prevent the cancer cell from surviving, but then nothing would survive. So you can actually see there's no logic to that. Our situation, as long as somebody hasn't done this, then they need to do the protocol. If that's not the case, then the other strategies is high doses of taurine, high doses, reducing all the crap food, the deuterium and all that, and pretty much boosting the immune system by getting the vitamin D to a good level. I'll give you an example. My dad's vitamin D levels, he takes 5,000 IUs every single day for the whole year, because he's wearing long trousers, long sleeves. He goes out a bit in the summer and all that. So he's not going to get a lot of vitamin D. So to avoid hypervitaminosis getting too high, and, he's carrying a bit of weight. So even under those sort of circumstances, he's still got 183 millimoles, which is the American one. So 183 divided by 2.5 is 73.2 for those on stateside in the Americas. So 73.2, 183 for Australia, Europe, and it's between 170, which is 70, 175 to pretty much 200. So Dad's smack in that middle area, which is exactly where I want him. And that was based on the last test he did. When was that? Nearly 2 months ago. So he's at 108. And last time he was 170 something. So he's creeped up just slightly in that regard. That's probably because he's eating a bit more vitamin D rich foods as well. So he's eating more animal foods than what he was last year when he did the test and all that. So there you go. I mean, it's proof, as they say, proof is in the pudding. And he does have cancer. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate. I think they're Canadian dollars. How's the economy going? Just kidding. Thank you. Oops. And just to go and on that as well, sort of 6 hours approximately. So I don't supplement, and my vitamin D is high as well, in the high normal range. It's not in the therapeutic level, but I only supplement 5,000 IUs through the winter. That's it, 3 months. The rest, I'm outdoors all the time. So even when I'm at work, morning I'm out, afternoon I'm out, and at lunch I'm out. So I pretty much get a lot of, and I'm fair skinned, so I get shitloads. So I maintain my vitamin D levels fine. But as I said, people have different lifestyles. Some people, you know, due to their jobs, due to their lifestyle or whatever, may need to supplement slightly more. Or if you can get it from the skin, from being outdoors, perfect. If you're a tradie, you've got it made because you're outdoors all the time. Third, any new therapy or supplements to treat progressive lung fibrosis. The only thing that I've actually used, because I had severe lung fibrosis, like glassing, risk of cancer, as my doctor said, and that was about a decade, a decade ago, when I had my heart condition as well, and pretty much the last test that I did in 2019, which is 5 years ago now, had my lung fibrosis had come down all the way down to 19% in my left lung. In my heart, it was completely gone. In the left lung, 19%. Now, I haven't done a test since then. I haven't bothered. My doctor said, do you want to do a test? This is before he retired last year. He said, do you want to do a test? I said, no, not interested. I said, I don't need to irradiate my body to know that what I'm doing is working. And he goes, fair enough, you know. So he left it at that. And then didn't even tell me, Andrew didn't even tell me that he was going to retire. And then he retired. So now I don't have a doctor. So I just still use the clinic that, so whoever's available. Yeah. But, any time I actually ever use them is very rarely nowadays anyway. So I think the only time I actually did use them was when I had the flu. That's the other thing. It's very hard to get in there. So it was a couple of days after I was still, fluey at the time. So yes, I'll have COVID any day. No, I'm just joking. Any day compared to the flu. Mm. And again, to be honest, I was basically a bit low on vitamin D as well in that period. So probably deserves me a right. And I was doing another experiment. So I set myself up for a bit of a whacking. But when I do keep my levels, and even when the last time when I actually lowered it to do some testing, I ended up getting COVID. And then after that, when I got my taurine up again and my vitamin D up again, zilch. After that, and I haven't had anything this year, even though people around me have. It's bulletproof. And my two brothers for another mother, they do the same thing, and they've been bulletproof as well. So there's not, and one of them, like, I don't like mentioning names, people. His partner, she basically had it a couple of times, and they were sleeping together. He never got it. Now she's basically also she's up to taurine, up to, got a vitamin D under to a better state, and she's pretty much, again, bulletproof as well. Good for her, because she actually got it 5 times in a row. I couldn't believe it. I mean, she was, like C19 Central. Anyway, and you guys are having your own. First off, how are you, mate? Merry Christmas to you as well. Ian Raymond, how are you, mate? Merry Christmas to you as well, mate. Always a pleasure to have you here. Oh, zealot depleted deuterium in water. No idea, Sarah. Is somebody claiming that? I haven't even checked it. All I know is that it's a distillery. It's similar to a distillery. They heat up the water to a certain and their fractionations, like in a distillation system. So the higher it is, it's lighter because deuterium is heavy water. It's double the weight. So you're using gravity to pick up the so you're turning it you're heating up the water to a level where it's sort of turning into a near gas, and it's actually being picked up from different levels. It's the process. So anything lower has high deuterium, and as you go up, the fractionation actually reduces due to this distillation process. And it's these big long pipes and all that. So that's how it's done. Now there is an electrical system that seems also that some people claim that works as well. I haven't seen any third-party testing or results from those people who claim that, like to actually see a third party measure the ppm, the parts per million in the water. So I can't really say. No idea. I'd find it very strange because I wouldn't, the mechanism, because hydrogen ions, whether it's protium, which is, H1, classical hydrogen, which is called protium. So protium compared to deuterium, which is double the weight because of the neutron, and that's the thing that causes the problem. They're sort of electrostatic. Their relationship in the way they bind to things is very similar as two stable isotopes of hydrogen. So I would find it very strange that this material could bind one and not the other. It doesn't make sense to me mechanistically, or the physics don't seem to basically make sense. Anyway, have you looked into neuropeptides? How would one open the critical period of the high baseline neuroplasticity? I believe high IGF-1, low deuterium, and an effective lymphatic system. Well, these all things help. So, I mean, IGF-1 is one of those things that, depending on the tissue that it's actually being upregulated, that's going to make the difference. So if it's in specific tissue type, it'll have a benefit. If it's in the wrong tissue type, like fat cells, it is more prone. It'll actually push pathways which, as the fat cells grow, then they can become inflamed. The IGF-1 isn't causing it. It's just the growth that it eventually those cells exceed the certain physiological level that they can cope based on genetics, because some people can produce more and they will never have this problem. They just produce more and more and become morbidly obese and bigger. They fill up a whole bed and still not have any of the pathology. So what do they call them? Where somebody who's like a tofu, which is thin on the outside and fat on the inside, is the complete opposite of that. And they will get inflamed very quickly and diabetic very quickly. And we see that in people in Southeast Asia and parts of Asia where people have come from tropical areas which are unable to produce more fat cells, like Europeans or North Asians or people like that, and so can't buffer, you could say, the this sort of these growth pathways, and so end up becoming highly inflamed because they've got no storage. Your macrophage goes there and becomes a mess. But anyway, look, all these things help. Low deuterium, taurine, earthing yourself helps. Things like red light therapy, all these help improve generally the functioning of your body, and also, but if you're going to get you're going to get more neurogenesis with taurine and better regulation of chemistry in the brain. So again, that indicates a carnivore diet is the best. We've seen it with people like Amber O'Hearn with her bipolar. She tried everything until she went on a carnivore diet, and it actually, because you still need the nutrients, which you may not get on a ketogenic diet, which may be more plant-based, you still won't get the amino acids, the fatty acids, the stuff you need, the material, to work properly, for the body to work properly, So I look at a whole raft of conditions, and I find taurine deficiency in autism and a whole lot of other neurological situations, a whole lot. There's so much literature out there in regards to taurine deficiency, brain shrinkage, taurine deficiency, you name it, it's out there. Well, your mummy's milk gives you that in order to basically grow new brain cells. We know that it actually facilitates neurogenesis. So, I mean, you want to maintain a healthy brain in the future. Eat a steak, produce more taurine, consume it. Anyway, Tom, any tips to reduce water intake? I'm drinking 1 point a day, but it's hard to go lower. If your body actually, wants that amount, are you cheating, Tom? Because I find when I actually do cheat, my consumption of water goes up. When I'm not cheating, it doesn't. When I drink coffee, it goes up because it's a diuretic. When I'm not drinking coffee, I won't drink any water the whole day. Only what I get from my fat cells that produce metabolic water. If I'm more physically active, yeah, my needs will go up because I'm sweating out at a faster rate. Because tribal people, they'll walk and then they'll just sprint the last thing, and they'll carry things. So they do, sort of weight-bearing type activities and sprint. They don't do sort of continuous activity. So their activity level compared to a tradie would be higher. If you're out in the sun as a tradie, your water requirements go up. And if you're sweating a lot and you've got, other issues, you may require slightly more. It's a very personalised thing in lifestyle and circumstance. Generally speaking, if somebody's really well fat adapted and really got really good mitochondrial health, and that's not the Western people, it's usually tribal people like the Maasai, the Hadza and people like that. Those sort of people, their requirements for water is very low, very low. So you may not be producing enough metabolic water, and that's why. So, and over time, that may improve because, it takes about a decade to turn over all the cells in your body and repair a lot of things. So you still may be healing. And so as things improve in your body, your mitochondrial density improves and stuff like that, and are able to produce more internal water, then your need, your thirst and all that will start dissipating and lowering. It did for me as well, but it took over a decade for me to start getting that effect. Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm Tom, remember that. And Merry Christmas to you as well. Oops. Oh, Winther seems to be a pretty natural way to go. I heard Chafee drinks 2 gallons of water. Does he? Well, tribal people don't. I wouldn't consider that a smart thing to do at all. Just because somebody's a doctor doesn't make them an expert. I hear a lot of people in our community saying all sorts of ridiculous things. So, no, you do not need that amount of water and that amount of deuterium. While you're young, and he's young, you can get away with it. I don't know his physical activity and what he does, and whether he's one of those people like me who loses more water, but I up my sodium to make sure I don't. Because there's a bell curve. Some retain, some lose, and most are in the middle. So where your magical point is, that is for you to determine. In the depletion of brown fat reserves and indicator of energy dysfunction or just a programmed aspect of aging, we don't know. We just don't know. I know that from the Inuit, there's very little research in that, but what it does seem that even older people can tolerate the cold, which means that they've got sufficient brown adipose tissue. Because, I did a video on the Inuit about the taurine thing and how that sort of increases their internal heat. The reason why they eat so much fish, another reason to get taurine to sort of for thermogenesis, sort of internally increase their body heat. There are things that were things to mitigate it, getting out in the cold. See, brain adipose tissue can shrink if you're, let's say, living a lifestyle of comfort, too much comfort. So cold. I mean, I walk out in the sun, in the winter, and do walks with with sometimes a t-shirt and shorts on. And sometimes I go, well, this is fresh. Meaning, for those non-Australians, it means it's damn cold. So, yes. But at the same time, that's going to basically upregulate my brown adipose tissue. And taurine helps that as well. And that's probably another reason why I sweat like a hog when I move, because I heat up quite a bit. I can sweat even in winter. So, yes. So I don't think if I can restore my level of brain adipose tissue to slightly higher, as I'm getting old, I'm 58 now, so I'm getting older and I'm actually improving my brown adipose tissue, I would say that it's not an age part of the aging process. I would say it's part of a whole lot of other things. Certain indicating that something's not right. I mean, HD, you're not a very old person. I suspect you're talking about maybe some of your relatives as well when you ask these questions, what's their lifestyle like? Maybe the big indicator of all this. Because I know you do ask for your father, you've asked for your other relatives in the past. So, yeah, I would say, what's their lifestyle nowadays like? Stephen, hi, Harry. Almost forgot this live was so busy. We're all busy, mate, in this period of time. I know. So this is just going until about close to 1, and then I'm going to pull the pin. The evening one's going to go for longer. It's just, you can only do so many things. But then I remembered, Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you as well, Stefan. Merry Christmas to you as well, mate. I started eating breakfast and ditched dinner because some people I follow recommend it. But a lot of things I tolerate later in the day give me cramps in the morning, like eggs, butter, thoughts. So you're saying, but a lot of things I tolerate later in the day give me cramps in the morning, like eggs, butter. Strange that those things would give you in that regard. So why have you started eating breakfast again? If that was causing a problem, why change it? I've never heard of something like this. I've got no idea what could be causing it. The only thing that I could think of is some sort of electrolyte disturbance from the sort of dietary changes. There are things that happen like in the evenings due to circadian rhythms. And, I do find myself as a person that loses a lot of salt throughout the day that I actually need a bit more salt in the evening. Try adding a bit of salt, even if it's since you're not having a meal in the evening which is salted, try adding some salt to water in the evening and trying that and seeing whether that corrects it. Because some of us, like myself, and you may be one of them, we dump salt through the day far more than other people. I'm a heavy salt, and I remember once I didn't salt enough when I was in the tropics, and my heart was just pounding out here. Had to go down to the guys asking for a whole lot of salt. Used it, and immediately it went away, and I was normal again. So, and cramps. Other people get a lot of cramps because of sodium depletion. So, yeah, just try the salt. That's the only thing I can think of at this stage. It's usually the one that's the big one, the low-hanging fruit, as they call it. I'm enjoying background scenes tonight. Merry Christmas all. Thank you. Yes, it is a good scene in the back there with Christ. Anyway, Ben, is bad body odour a sign of disease? My nephew has some rancid feet. Could be all sorts of things. It could be a fungus infection. Have you had him checked out for a fungal infection? That's a possibility. That's one of the big ones. Usually, when you get that sort of smell, it's fungus. Or athlete's foot type thing, which is same sort of stuff. So I would actually get him to a doctor to be checked to make sure that, and he'll get on, the doctor will recommend some sort of antifungal treatment in that regard. You may have to work out exactly what's his lifestyle, what's he doing. Is he picking it up from the school place? Is he picking it up from home? Is it endemic in the home and people, need to basically clean up the bathtub and stuff like that to get rid of this. So you need to find out what's causing it. There may be some dampness in the house, and that also can create some level of, mold and all that. And sometimes that can be an issue as well. So you've got to identify and work out exactly what is the issue. And obviously, saying my nephew means he's probably older, living on his own. Because if he was at home, you'd say, well, he may have mentioned, I don't know. If he's living at home, other people may have also some similar issues. You just need to find out. And you say, that's you actually said, is this from the feet or the body, total body? See, it's not very clear, Ben. Can you actually let me know what it is? Feet, the whole body? Is it, are you sure it's coming from the whole body, or is it just the feet? Because sometimes you can have smelly feet and you can't discern from your nostrils whether it's coming from the whole body or just the feet. Just his feet. Yeah, it's probably then some sort of fungal infection. That's all it is. Just get it checked out ASAP, or get him to get it checked out ASAP and sort it out. Yeah, if it's a whole body, that usually can mean certain rare genetic pathways, and usually have that throughout your whole life. It doesn't just appear just like that. And then riboflavin is the master thing that actually corrects those enzymatic pathways that correct. Yeah, I've had people with TMA to TMAO sort of conversion, and they smell like fish. and they don't have a lifestyle, and they get on a good dose of riboflavin, the whole thing goes away, and they get their life back. I've had 2 people like that have come to my channel, so they're happy campers now. They got their life back, which is good. Anyway, there are other rare disorders as well that I've actually had to deal with slightly higher doses of riboflavin, but that's for another day. Anyway, how overblown is the concern for microplastics? That's a hard one. Our body does have the ability to detox heavy metals, microplastics, all sorts of things, and we can get rid of them. So the body does. It depends on, vegans tend to have more of these microplastic heavy metal issues because you have to have a good gallbladder to be able to detox. So if your gallbladder isn't functioning, that's a problem. It's usually a high T3, prolonged insulin, and other things like that. People being on plant-based and whatever that causes that problem, then they can't detox properly because your liver does most of the detoxing. I mean, I know your kidneys and other organs do as well, but one of the main ones is it needs a number of amino acids and a number of other cofactors, which are much higher in animal foods, and then it gets excreted through the bile and all that. So, but in terms of the level of endocrine disrupting things like that, if people have got high exposure, then you can actually also consider something like calcium D-glutarate to help with dealing with that level. But it's best to sort of fix the cause, what's going in the body. What would be an ideal approach for medical diagnosis? It seems that it's one area very lacking. Biological age tests unreliable. Would deuterium levels tests be the best bet? HD, I couldn't tell you in that regard. I've got a lot of question marks on these sort of longevity type things. How do you look? I mean, for 50, 58, I don't look too bad, So how do you look? How do you feel? But then again, I haven't been carnivore for most of my life. I couldn't keep up with an 80-year-old like Mary Ruddock couldn't keep up with an 80-year-old Maasai. These people are much healthier, better mitochondrial health, are earthing all day long because they're walking out on the earth all day long. They don't live indoors like I am and many others like us. It's completely different. You can't compare. It's like, what do they call apples and oranges? You can't compare the two. Obviously, the more things you do that reduce the damage that happens to our bodies, the better. But yeah, I don't think there is some magical stuff out there that can actually tell you exactly 100% what's happening, or exactly what your precise biological age. These are approximates, and they've been changed a number of times, which indicates that most of the original thinking in this was wrong anyway. So could the current thinking be wrong? Potentially. I wouldn't bother. Keep the crap out of your diet. Eat a species appropriate diet. Do the right things, and you'll actually live much better. And, don't waste your money on all this sort of nonsense testing. I've stopped doing that. I saw progress. I go, do I need to basically continually monitor my progress? No. Why waste money? Do I feel better every year? Yes. I mean, that should be a good enough indication that I am getting better if I'm feeling better. Amputation? I suspect, Lamps, that is a joke. I hope it's a joke. In a lot of ancient tribes, women get much less movement and exercise than the men, basically sitting most time, even Marriott stated it. Why does it not affect their health and lifespan? Well, they're earthing themselves for one. They're actually earthing. No, well, they don't sit around that much. They do move around and all that. What they do is they're doing physically less strenuous things compared to men. Men are going out kilometres to find food and, are doing, and that's why they consume more meat, because they need that extra after they've done so much damage to their muscles and all that from all that. Just think of it. Somebody goes to a gym, does a whole lot of physical work, because they're doing the equivalent. You're just paying to get the privilege of doing it. How ridiculous. But anyway, that's what modern people do. And these people go out, they walk long distances, 20, 30 Ks. They have to chase down and spear an animal. Then they have to basically carry it back and all that. All these things are strenuous. All these things require more. But the thing is, this is the other delusion. If you're earthing yourself continuously, like these people are doing, there's no platelet aggregation in the bloodstream. There's none of these things clumping together. There's less fibrosis. There's less clotting. All these things go down. And we know that, when we earth and test people, they immediately, because you get the sort of, not only do you get the electrons that basically provide like an antioxidant, a natural antioxidant, but also you get getting this negative charge from the earth. And that actually has the ability to pull things apart. So it repels things. So in the bloodstream, things don't clump together. Your blood pressure goes down. Your basically your nitric oxide goes up, vasodilation, and things function better due to earthing. So the whole lifestyle is different compared to modern humans. It's completely and utterly different. You can't compare the two. I mean, if you're sitting down and earthing yourself, you don't need to do exercise to get vasodilation. You're getting it from the earth. Do you get the difference? Completely different. You can't compare a person in the West who's unearthed with plastic soles on their feet and not connected to the earth to have that effect, and the different diet, lifestyle. These are the things, and that's why it's hard to basically say it's a combination of things that actually make the difference. Like, how are you, mate? What's he saying, Stephen? My breakfast must be light. My digestion doesn't tolerate heavy, fatty stuff in the morning. Well, we weren't supposed to basically be consuming a lot of food in the morning, because remember, we would get up, we'd go out, and what are we doing in the morning? We're going out and actually going for a hunt. What do I do at about 11 o'clock? I have a higher protein, less fat. The fat I actually leave for the evening. I have more fat in the evening. My 2 meals, in my evening meal, I have more fat and all of that. Because, there are circadian rhythms in terms of digestion as well. And so it's another reason why people started, when they were physically active, they started consuming certain foods that had slightly more fat in the morning. And they were basically getting some of these things, and people thought, oh, it's the food. No, it was that they were adding, now they could afford to add more fat, they were adding more fat in the morning. You're supposed to add more protein in the morning, fat more in the evening. The shift, the requirement, your whole cortisol effect is to basically force more fat out and more glucose out, so you don't need it in the morning because you're going on a hunt. Remember, you still have a tribal body, in a modern world. So, yeah, that's the difference, and that's why I tend to have more protein in the morning or after 11 o'clock, which is my time, because that's the lowest point in your cortisol as well. That's when I usually have the food in my time-restricted feeding. And then in the afternoon is when I have more fattier, steaks with, I'll put butter on and stuff like that, so. Well, most people are not designed to. We've still got tribal genes. We weren't designed to basically eat in the morning. This whole concept of breakfast was a marketing thing pushed most populations in the late morning or early lunch period, like 11. I know my relatives who were tobacco farmers in Greece in the 70s, we stayed with our auntie helping her out one year because she was, they were having with the grandmother, they were having some problems and she was having some health problems and they needed some help. So we went over and helped them out. And I can tell you, we didn't eat because you'd go down, you'd wake up very early in the crack of dawn, go and actually work on the farm, and then you would come up and start, putting through the machine the tobacco so you could actually stitch it together, because that's how you stitch the stuff together, and then you hang it up to dry. And so, and we kids were told to use the old-fashioned way through these big sort of what are they called? Oh, these pointy things. Whatever. Like a skewer. It was like a type of a skewer thing. You skewed the thing and just put it on the actual a thread or these thick threads. So we just skewered it on. So we learnt the traditional technique as well back then as well. Different time. And we wouldn't have our first meal until about 11 by the time we had it. It wouldn't be early in the morning. It'd be something like 11. And many tribal people would probably kill an animal by then or 12, and they would cut a bit of the organs and they'd share that around and stuff like that. That's not, so very different in that regard. And then you'd have sort of something light like a coffee or a break in the sort of early afternoon, and then after that you would have your main meal in the late afternoon, around about 5-ish, 5:30, 6, depending when things were, you'd finish all your work, and then you'd have a big meal, which would be a social meal. And that's how people used to do it. Then you'd go to bed. Then they did have lighting, so you'd stay up a bit later. Us kids were sent to bed earlier. Anyway, I was 13 at the time. Pat, Merry Christmas to you as well. I asked my parents and extended family and future project ideas down the line. Getting my father to switch is like moving mountains, exactly. I know. Actually, Dad now eats far more meat than he used to. So it does happen if you persist and encourage them and all that. So the pescatarian Jack Cruz approach might be it. Yeah, it may be that's the only way of going with as long as they're getting enough protein in, and the nutrients that they need. Yeah. And Mike's got a suggestion, but I would still go and see a doctor and find out. So it needs to be properly diagnosed. Sometimes cross contaminated. shoe, socks, and back again, especially if sweating and not changing socks enough. Yeah, that also can be a problem. I change my socks every single day. And when I'm at home, no socks. No socks as well. If you're at home, you should be either barefoot or have thongs on. Thongs. That's what we call them in Australia, just for those. No, I'm not talking about those sort of thongs. Um, you know, so any sort of footing that allows the feet to breathe. You should only when you're wearing shoes to go outdoors for whatever reason, either to work or to exercise, to exercise or whatever. That's when you basically put on socks, get home, take them off, throw them in the washer. That's what you should be doing. That's what I do. I never wear, because Dad actually recently, you wouldn't be surprised, he had a fungal infection as well. He always wears his shoes indoors all the time, other than sleeping, and even sleeps with his damn socks. This has all changed because we actually noticed he had a fungal infection. So we had to basically get him on some antifungals and basically got him some sandals and stuff like that. Now he has sandals to go outdoors in summer and indoors, and also he walks around. In most cases, I encourage it barefoot when so, which is good in terms of earthing, but at the same time, it also means that he's not, his legs are breathing and all that. Nothing's growing. So that's important as well. So just get your feet out of your shoes for most of the day if you can. Limit the amount just to the work hours or to the hours that you have to. Basically, when I'm at home, working from home, I don't wear shoes. The only times I wear shoes are when I go out for for a bit of exercise, when I'm working from home, or when I go to work, or when I'm visiting someone. Otherwise I don't. I allow my feet to breathe. Very important. Yes, you can. Yep. Good ideas. Good ideas. I never used dandruff shampoo. Does that work as well? Okay. Interesting. Something to try next time. My feet. Apparently Mike said it's great. Stop complaining. Feet. Okay. He's been on the holidays. My house never smelled so bad. I was concerned. I'd be putting him outside and dousing him down with a hose just for fun. Ben, you might as well get some satisfaction out of it, some fun, Okay. Maybe not a good idea to torment the relatives, but it is fun. Yes, exactly. That is what I was saying. Yes, I had to teach my dad to do that. Yes. The old boy. Mm. Pack some socks for Christmas. Exactly. There's your Christmas present. Get out there and get some today. Mm. Yes, all those things help. They do. They do. Yeah, actually, salt water does. I actually got all these other salts in the Epsom salts as well. Take him to the beach. That helps. Depends how close the beach is, Mike. Could be 1,000 kilometres away. Could be, Ben could be located somewhere in the middle of it in, mid-America, the middle part of America, you know, the Midwest as it's called, because they hadn't actually taken the other part yet at that point when that naming came up, and it stuck. So, yep. They probably are and given up. Yeah, they probably don't. Anyway, Joseph, how are you, mate? Would fermented milk make it lose its taurine content? No, it shouldn't. You know, it's still in the milk. Why would it lose any? Fermentation just would increase the lactobacillus bacteria, you know, certain beneficial things. No, the difference is we're cooking the meat and some of the fluids are going out of the meat, which is different. It's not as if fermenting milk is you're not going to be tossing out any milk, are you? No, it's not the same. Different process. Under the picture. lamps. You had to go that low level humour. My feet odor mostly disappeared a few years ago when I started taking my socks and my shoes and socks off after work and stopped wearing shoes too long. Yeah, exactly. Also shower, wash them before bed. True. Does make a big difference. Yeah. And that's, you know, why I'm encouraging Dad to do that as well. Because he's another one of those people that just will not listen. Yep. Lef, how are you, mate? Merry Christmas to you as well. Getting hungry, waiting for Christmas dinner to cook. Tomorrow. God almighty. You can't hold yourself back, can you, Richard? At glycating gifts for other people. So you're going to poison your relatives. Oh, candy. Uncle Richard's here with candy to glycate the little kids. I quit breakfast 35 years. Yeah, well, I actually stopped breakfast a while ago as well. And, yeah, just break my time restricted feeding at around 11:30, depends. Now, I'm looking beef and butter, Christmas morning, steak and pork leftovers. So that's what you're doing. LOL, he says he won't eat meat until he's back in Ethiopia. Your dad is obstinate like mine. Just tell him you've imported it from Ethiopia. He wouldn't know the difference. My dad does the same thing. I say, you're poisoning your friends, are you, Dad? Well, that's what they want. Can't stick steak in their letterbox. True. Yes. Anyway, I sort of got like things like pork rinds and stuff like that, and like a whole thing, and I've given that as presents. So there are options, Richard. There are options. Question is, you don't know whether they're going to throw them out and eat it or eat them. A lot of the circadian gurus recommend eating breakfast lately for hormonal balance, and that's why I asked, like Max, bullshit, hormonal balance. It's a lot of crap, hormonal balance. Some of the shit that people come up with, it's all these little strange things. Yeah, go and tell that to a Maasai or go and tell that to a Hadza. You need to eat early in the morning, guys, for hormonal balance. They'll look at you and go, "Are you fucking retarded?" That's what they'll tell you, because most of the Westerners are retarded in that regard. It's all this bullshit where it's coming from the Ray Pete fan club about, cortisol being the problem. You need to, no, I need cortisol to raise in the morning to tell my body to get the stuff that it needs to keep going, and then for me to go out for a hunt, technically speaking. That's what I need. That's when I'm in alignment with my ancestral circadian and everything. As I usually say to people, show me the evidence of this circadian thing. And they'll tell you about the cortisol thing, and then they don't realize that that is a natural signaling thing. Why would you in any way try to interfere with it? It's ridiculous. It's, again, the demonization of hormones. It's like the demonization of fatty acids that exists. There's a difference between seed oil, and this is the confusion that people have as well, seed oil and PUFA. PUFA is just the fatty acids. Depends on the source you're getting it. Most of the experiments they do, they don't use industrial seed oils that you get out of a fryer in a takeaway joint like at McDonald's. Okay? They're not using that sort of stuff in their experiments. They're getting it from Big Pharma, which is a clean product. And then they're using that for the experiments. They're going, well, there's no association between linoleic acid or seed oils and any of these other conditions. Well, obviously, because you've got, like, you're using the sort of similar to the parental, what is called the parental type, meal or parental nutrition, which is sort of they put it, you're basically fed by a tube because you've got some health issues and you can't eat in the normal way. So they feed it through a tube and they give you linoleic acid. The key, the essential fatty acids, as they call the omega-3s and the omega-6s. But all this is sort of cleaned. It's not rancid, damaged, and stuff like that. It's a completely different product from something that's coming out of a fryer in a McDonald's outlet. And it's like two worlds. And they go, one study shows that the other study shows something else. Obviously, every single bloody week, there's a new study either showing it's bad or good because it's bullshit, most of it. And it's the same thing with all this sort of hormones and circadian. It's a lot of things that makes hormones behave in a certain way. And I've never known of hormones being balanced. Okay? Hormone signaling happens for specific reasons in a system. They don't have to be, they're not balanced. They basically are at different levels depending on a whole lot of factors and different levels throughout the day. Even your testosterone and many other of your hormones go through a circadian cycle and vary throughout the day. So most of this is just garbage, I find. It's just more nonsense a different day, as if some tribal person sitting around regulating, my hormones have gone up. Oh, they've gone down 2 hours later. Oh, shit. What do? I need to find a supplement. I mean, really? God almighty. These people are retarded. Again, reductionist thinking. As I've said, I've railed against it, me and Bart, about reductionist thinking. you end up with this sort of nonsense talk. It's the same thing, rather than saying the fatty acids are not the problem. I mean, even if you get like a high quality oil, which is cold pressed, like a vegetable oil which is cold pressed, that's going to have low deuterium as well. It's going to be low deuterium, about 130 parts per million, similar to olive oil, at the top of the healthy range, between 100 to 130 in terms of ppm. But the industrial oils that are going through a refinery, they've got about 255 parts per million in deuterium, a completely different product. And this is why you hear all these clowns, as I call them on the interweb, saying, oh, linoleic acid or seed oils are not harmful. Here's a study. Yeah, well, we know what they used. They didn't use industrial seed oils in a fryer. They actually used this big pharma product of it, which is from the parental nutrient, which is not a processed product like the industrial seed oil that's coming out of a refinery. The two aren't the same. As a consequence, you're going to get different results. Go figure. And it's the same thing with a lot of other substances which they put in a lot of studies. You've got to go back and find out, what is it? It's like, with the rats, high-fat diet. Well, we know what a high-fat diet is. It's the chow specifically made to mimic the standard diet, which has a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar. It had a number of different sugars, like dextrose and stuff like that, and a certain amount of seed oil as well. And they combine those two together. And you get in the physiology of the rat, which is not designed to consume that sort of that sort of profile as well, you'll get really bad outcomes. But when you do it then in humans, you don't get it's sort of very muddied. It's sort of the signal either goes one way or another, depending on the way it's constructed. So we've got to be very careful, because a lot of these people don't understand how studies are constructed and designed. And if you don't understand that, you can very easily fall into sort of deception and the pseudoscience and stuff like that. So recently I was looking at some R-square values that people were looking at, and they were making claims where the R-square values were very low. They were in for saturated fat, they were about an R-square value of 0.34, and the other one, and also even the p-value was low on that. So even the confidence wasn't very, very good, but also the level was far too low, which means that to be positively associated, it has to be closer to 1. It has to be definitely over 50 and all of it was below 50. So it was just junk. Oh, there's an association here. There's they were claiming all sorts of things, and I'm going, you guys don't even know how to read the stuff. And that's the problem with a lot of these clowns. Okay, I understand that Christmas may not hold the same significance for everyone, and I respect that. Today is just another day for your family, and I hope you have a peaceful and pleasant day regardless. Thank you, Neff. In my case, it is important because I'm an Orthodox Christian, so it is very, very important. But obviously, it's for other people, it may be just Father Christmas, a Father Christmas Day. True, exactly. Yes. Had enough of these gurus. Yes, it's a religious thing for me as well. I can't believe I'm at the bottom. Incredible. things do happen. Yeah, but I think we need to be very careful of a lot of this sort of nonsense that creeps into our community, that people get all wound up about hormones, get all wound about a lot of different things. I mean, even as I pointed out, when you have dysfunction of your pancreas, what goes up? T3 goes very high. But I'm not claiming that T3 is causing the problem. It's just a consequence of high carbohydrates. It's the carbs and less fat for the gallbladder to be working. It's a high carb diet, less fat, use it or lose it, as they say. If you're basically not using it and you're producing, because you're still, even if you don't eat cholesterol, you're still producing cholesterol, and the excess needs to be excreted out of the bile, putting it in there, not having enough taurine to emulsify it, then hardens. It's not the cholesterol, it's the problem of not having animal foods to give you the taurine to emulsify that and give you also the choline, which also plays a role in proper bile sort of excretion and proper bile function and synthesis. So if you don't have the nutrients because you're not eating animal foods, then you end up with a gallbladder that actually doesn't function properly and a higher T3. The high T3 isn't the problem. It's not the hormone. It's basically like insulin over-signaling. Again, it's not the insulin-resistant construct, as Bart would say. It's basically you're putting the wrong things down your throat and causing this inappropriate signaling. The body's just trying to sort things out, re-regulate things properly, but and it's struggling to do that, and that's why it's over signaling certain things, trying to get things sorted out. It's these things. So we have to stop demonizing hormones, and I've been saying this for a very long time. We need to basically understand how the system, we need to see the body as a system, not a whole lot of reduction of steps. And once we understand that, we'll understand much better how things work in our body. And we'll be able to jettison a lot of this sort of nonsense pseudoscience that's out there that keeps on. Maybe we should throw in a bit of lamps, a bit of a citric acid there, and maybe a bit of apple cider vinegar. That's a favourite for who, that other doctor, the so-called doctor, the chiropractor, the bone snapping doctor. Old Eric, yes. Yeah, throw a bit of Eric apple cider vinegar in there. It'll do marvellous things for you. Just, coat yourself with it. Seems to solve everything for him. Yeah, but generally speaking, we need to get away from this notion that, hormones are bad or certain processes in the body are bad. No, derangements do exist. That's a different thing altogether. But hormones aren't bad if they're out of whack. That's why I use the word not bad or good. I use the word derangement. And you've heard me use it all the time because that's really, things are not signaling properly, are not functioning properly, are not processing things properly. That's really what it is. It's not that these things are bad or good. They're just not signaling properly or not functioning properly or not doing the right things properly in the body because we've actually put the wrong inputs. It's like shit data, poor result out. It's the same thing, poor diet, poor result out. Don't blame the body, the way it actually signals and functions and all that. Blame the inputs, the shit that you're putting into the body in that regard. The more carbs you put, you're going to actually keep increasing T3. But in excessive amounts, we know it's unhealthy. It creates gallbladder. But it's not the gall. Sorry, people say it creates gallbladder. As I corrected, I said yes, it's associated, but it's not the cause. It's just basically that the body is getting more, and because for pyruvate dehydrogenase in the mitochondria, you need more T3 to basically be able to take pyruvate and convert it through the enzymatic complex into acetyl-CoA. So then it can enter the, by entering the Krebs cycle, it can actually go all the way through to the mitochondria and be utilised. Beta oxidation doesn't require that. So obviously the needs are different for depending on what you're shoving down your throat. Necro, how are you? Hi, how are you? I figured out I was ankylosing spondylitis is genetic condition where my spine still just gets more and more inflamed as I age, and I eventually fuse or maybe damage the spinal cord. Well, there's a lot of there are a number of exercises that people can do for that. I just can't remember. There's a guy that actually does specific exercises to improve the spinal function. There are certain injectable peptides, like your BPC 157 and a few others that you can actually inject into the site of the spine, because the problem is you don't get a lot of angiogenesis around the spine, which is the biggest problem. So when you actually have a spinal injury, it's really hard to heal it. So it's really hard to get any blood, any nutrients to heal the spine, is one of the biggest problems. And it's, they've tried all sorts of medications. They never worked to get the same effect. I know that some people have used like some of these peptides in injectable, like injecting them around that area. Obviously, it needs to be done by a practitioner, like a naturopath that knows what he's bloody doing and is injecting in the right place and not injecting wrongly, because there are risks with those sort of things. But those have shown improvements in a number of people. It's something you need to investigate with. I can put some links down. Just put a comment and I won't be able to do it today or tomorrow, but in a couple of days later, I'll go back and any comments that people have made, I'll answer them and I'll provide information, and I can actually provide you some additional information in that regard. To help you out. But as I said, you need to get more outdoors, because I've commented this about your vitamin D levels are very important, and you've sort of neglected that side of thing, and the circadian sort of side as well, and also earthing, really important for your condition as well. So get out in the sun, earth yourself far more, or get an earthing mat or an earthing wire to earth yourself far more, because that's going to help you heal some of this sort of stuff way better than most other things. How do you think humans who live in warmer climates get more fat when the animals they are hunting are lean? Well, they don't. Most people in warmer climates actually have less fat cells. Remember, people about 20,000 years ago, there was a change to the ice caps in the North Asian plain, and that forced people further down, because that's when there was a group of Aboriginals, a new group that came in from Southeast Asia into Australasia, that mixed the gene pool of the actual Aborigines, the indigenous population, and parts of the population were replaced by further northerners. Now, people that have got the genes of the northerners, they tend to get fat, but that's a small minority of people in those sort of environments. The majority of people in those environments tend to be toffies, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. That's what the majority tend. You very rarely in these sort of places do you see morbidly obese people. Overweight, yes, but not morbidly obese. You won't get that. So, and I should know because I visit Southeast Asia continuously and have been since my 20s. So I really know all the changes, the dietary, the processed food, and how people have got more less healthy. And even Ronnie, a mate of mine over there who ended up diabetic, and his mother still cooks. She puts sugar in the food to cook it. What do you do? And I've told him, you need to stop that. He said, I can't tell my mother to do it. I can't help you then, Ronnie. I just can't. Anyway, so he's slightly overweight, diabetic, really bad diabetes. But yeah, so yes, you still can, because remember, humans have got more fat storage than other animals because we've got a big brains. We need the extra storage for that reason. So, animals have got puny little brains. They don't need as much fat. We do. There's your difference in that regard. But how fat somebody gets is different. You look at somebody from northern China and southern China, and there's a complete difference. You come from Inner Mongolia, those sort of areas, those people generate far more fat cells. Koreans, the same thing, become more fat. Japanese, the same thing, more fat. From the northern parts. From the southern parts, Okinawa and other parts in the southern, they get more tofu types. So there is, from the areas, I don't want to upset the Japanese, but they're not a homogeneous people. They're two groups that intermingled. Just letting you know. Don't say too much and upset them. But yes, and so there's these sort of things of different areas. Now, I know from some people that live in Hong Kong, one of their relatives from the north, they tend to basically much easier put a bit more fat on, where sisters probably take more from the dad's side. Even though he was sick, he was still relatively much thinner than his wife, and but he was sicker. He's passed away since then, and the same thing with some of the other daughters. That tells you something. There are those genetic differences that certain people that originate from colder climates have the ability to grow more fat cells, or from temperate climates, more fat cells, again, from people in the tropical. But there has always been interactions between people from those areas, and that has also created that difference. And that's where it is. But we humans generally have more. If you go to the Odyssey site, where I did a whole lot of videos, I've actually got links to them. If you go to the ones that I actually did, there's a video that I did, sort of a collaborations with Bart K, and I actually cover some of the actual, like the chimps and stuff like that, animals. Extremely low fat stores they have naturally. So the storage capacity is much lower in a number of animals. So even like, I'll give you an example. When the reduction in sort of we came into the interglacial period, certain animals went extinct that had bigger fat stores, and lighter animals came into like antelopes and stuff like that became the different types of animals that emerged in the actual Eurasia area, and they were much faster. And it's probably a reason why the Neanderthals couldn't hunt them down, because they were more stocky, and another reason why they probably died out. So there are reasons for all these sort of things. Just chill. Anyway, it's more about that. The problem. Hook Rider, how are you, mate? Oops. Just got a test back result. Cholesterol 15.8. Triggs 1.4. Yep. Cholesterol significant. No, you don't. If you're a hyper responder, you're a hyper responder. I mean, I don't. I'm sort of in that because of the ApoE genes, and I've done one with Pim Johnson. Bart's partner. If you take a look at my playlist, I cover the ApoE, and the ApoE explains this exactly. If you've got one of the fours, you will basically have a higher total and higher LDLC. The moment you switch away from carbohydrates to a more animal-based thing, just is what it is. Your chylomicrons go immediately into the liver, increasing the export of VLDL, and so increasing the amount of LDL you've got left over. You just got more of those trucks and less of the chylomicrons. I have more of the chylomicrons because they take longer to get in. As a consequence, my LDLC and will be less because I've got more chylomicrons circulating in the body. It's just different trucks moving lipids and nutrients around, your fat-soluble vitamins, your triglycerides, your cholesterol, and all that. They're in different vehicles, and they're not being measured. It's just nonsense. So, that's the ApoE that sorts that out completely and explains it. So I wouldn't be worried at all. Yes, you're definitely going to die. I just got my side yard fully fenced, and I was outside yesterday and got totally bitten by the bugs. Oh yeah, well, summer, or it wouldn't be summer now where you are. Bugs really must like you, like my younger sister. Have the same problem. Yes, definitely. Smash the like button, please. The YouTube AI will love you for it. Potentially love me as well. Okay, Granny Matt, I'm actually grounded. Yep. It takes time. It takes to heal, like myself, took a decade. When you've got severe health issues, it takes 7 to 10 years because you're turning over. You have to do all the right things. Sorry, but it's just the way the body works. If you had a high metabolism and healed faster, like those little rats, they only live a very short amount of time. They only live, remember, 2, maybe 3 years, the little rats. But they got turnover of cells really rapidly and they can heal much faster. That's why we can do tests on them to see whether a compound works or not. Humans, it's much slower, but we live longer. So, yeah, it sucks to be human when you're trying to heal. It just, what do you do? As a food energy source for the mitochondria, yes, because in the end, what we're using from both fats and sugar and whatever is basically hydrogen ions. And from them, we get the proton and the electron to run the electron chain and the ATPase in the mitochondria to produce ATP, which is the currency energy of our body. So fundamentally, it's, difference is one is higher in deuterium and also provides more metabolic water than the other. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just basically a mass of food energy that goes in and then the body utilizes it. So I'm not sure what you're trying to get at. Your message. How do you think humans who lived in warmer climates get more fat when the animals they are hunting? Okay, I'm with you. You're talking about how we seasonally eat sugar, like the tribal people would eat sugar out in a tribal sort of situation you're talking about. Yeah, those sort of people, yes, they would eat seasonal sugar to fatten up because we know fructose will fatten you up when you combine it with fat. The Randall cycle. Yeah, I'm with you now. What you were talking about. Yeah, I'm misreading your question. I do that sometimes because I just scan through it quickly, just the words and just my brain works like that sometimes. Well, there you go. You're a bug magnet. Well, at least somebody loves you. It's important. I'd love a few bugs to love me now and then to bug me. Anyway, Neff, anyway, you guys are talking amongst yourselves. I'll move on and go to the questions. Oops. Other question. I have nerve pain in the whole left side of my body, maybe late stage Lyme, and any ideas? Check my parasite videos. I've got a parasite playlist. Check that. Also, get your vitamin D up. Very important for Lyme's disease, having a good vitamin D status. And if you don't know where your vitamin D is, go and get it checked out ASAP. Event, do you use dirty electricity mat plugged in direct from the ground? I do recommend direct from the ground, but if people are in cities and they're going to be exposed to non-native EMFs anyway. The so-called dirty electricity is a bit of a bullshit thing. It's more to do with the non-native EMFs that are the problem, and that's not that the non-native EMFs are a problem in the daytime. It's actually in the evening because they're actually disrupting circadian rhythms, and early in the morning. This is why another reason why you turn your router off at night, you turn a lot of your electronic devices off at night to reduce the non-native EMF exposure. Because remember, you're getting certain signaling in the blue and the green wavelength, which you expect in the daytime when the sun's out. You don't expect those at night. And they are confusing the body what time of the day it is for the internal clocks in the body. That's where the problem lies with non-native EMFs. I've actually did a video ages ago. It's on Bart's channel on Odyssey, and it actually shows that when you use 5G on different cell lines and all that, the heat shock proteins do not activate from the 5G. Actually, 5G is less of a problem because it has less penetrating ability. And also compared to the terawatts of power that exists that are coming from the sun, doing far more cellular damage than anything. It's a signaling problem. It's not any radiation issue or whatever. It's benign. It's really the signaling problem is in terms of circadian disruption with these non-native EMFs. So because these magnetic fields are basically the wavelengths that we're getting, or the part of the bands that we're getting, are the problems that actually are creating circadian signaling problems for us in that regard. And we're bathed with a lot of these sort of things, which is the big problem. And it's been going on for a long time and it's getting worse. And so What I do recommend at night is people reduce their amount of exposure to non-native EMFs, because for the circadian side of things. Since I've been using wired mats, I feel my energy is really off. Granted, inflammation is low, but still, look, it sometimes can be a placebo effect. There can be a lot of things. If you believe something, you can basically make yourself feel a bit off. So we humans do that all the time. I sometimes have to fight against my own thought patterns because I realise I go, why am I thinking like that? And when I'm not thinking like that, I don't feel at all. Okay, that was just a thought made me feel like that. It was a placebo effect or a reverse placebo effect, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Yes, we can be our worst enemies sometimes to the way we feel. Harry keeps getting ads from Chemist Online. Okay. It's probably because I look up supplements for people because they're always asking me about this supplement or that, and I'm looking up supplements, and that's the reason why these commercials are probably coming out. I've actually got it for my live streams. I've got it to the lowest, what they call conservative. So it's the lowest, so you get less people being advertised. But you're on a platform. I'm contracted to Google, and sorry, Google, yeah, because they own YouTube, and pretty much they will put advertising whether you like it or not. So the only thing you can do is actually select the advertising and then tell them to do it to the lowest. So people that come to the live stream, they'll get the least, and then I usually then change it to the moderate. So people that watch it after, they get a few more, but I get a bit of extra income. So, come late, you'll pay, but at least you can actually push forward ahead. You can do that. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Have a lovely Christmas day. Thanks, mate. You too. Put the comments. Me and some other with antibiotic damage have been making probiotic yogurt, and they've been helping a lot to us. Yep, we've discussed this before. You've got that protocol. Remember, we worked out on Bart K's, because Nephro sorry about that, and Luke Gear, both of them actually are the administrators of Bart K's can you actually, are you able to put the, what is it called, are you able, Necro Kitty, are you able to put the Discord up? Because there you go. Yeah, because I can't remember the Discord exactly. I've got it somewhere, but yeah. So thank you. So yeah, and they run the Discord and stuff like that. And there you can find, if anybody wants that information there. Yes, I'm actually looking after somebody else's Kiefer at the moment. She left it with me. Takes advantage of me all the time. Damn women. This one was aggravated by a protein called, yep, which is releasing some of the guts. I'd like to get my guts are even less leaky than they already are. Yep. Yeah, look, I'd have to look at those genetics. Have you actually done a genetic test to find out exactly some of the genes involved? Because there are varied genes, and depending on the genes, yep. Well, they're pretty good as well. The Biogaia and the Mutaflor. I've done the Mutaflor as well, which I had to because I was actually getting a lot of like I was after I'd done a period in my life in my 30s of uh, this is even before I became carnivore, but been doing a lot of antibiotics and all that. I had to get on the Metaflor, which is it's a German soldier was it was extracted from a German soldier that survived dysentery and stuff like this in the First World War, and it does combat a lot of the actual types of bacterial strains you find in many developing countries or third world countries or whatever you want to call them in that regard. And I actually used that because I used to get a lot of, like your barley bellies and all that sort of stuff quite a bit. When I actually did Metaflor, it really gave me another level of protection that I didn't have before because I travel continuously into the tropics. Yeah, I did 23 man ran through promos and 9 genes for which is how I figured out I had it. Okay. Okay. Because you saw the genes. Okay. Oh, that's right. Because you did ask me, should I do the test? And I said yes, to find whether you had some of the genes. Um, email me. Email me the information, the genes, and all that. Email me. I need to know exactly which genes you've got and what your SNPs are like. Because once I know your SNPs, I'll do a bit of an investigation. Oh, you've got both. Well, you need choline then, which is definite. You need to. If I had both, unless you're eating eggs every day and having liver occasionally, I'd be definitely basically taking 2 grams of choline every day religiously for MTHFR, and I would also be a low dose riboflavin because you may not be getting enough riboflavin just to be on the certain side. Not too excessive, the low dose ones. So yeah. So you found that out as well. I've got only the one, the primary one. I don't have the secondary one. So that's where my sort of difference is, And so thanks, Neff. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so Necro, I've got the primary one, the 677, which is the one which riboflavin corrects. So, but you've got the other one that also does affect with part of the choline pathway as well. Okay, you've got quite a few then, far more than me. I've only got a couple, not a lot. My detoxes are really good. Most of my genes, I've got some of the so-called longevity genes, but they're not really longevity. It just means I've got better detox. It's the reason why I can clear things out. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Yep, email me and I'll go through them. So I'll be able to give you a bit of a genomics analysis and tell you some of the things that you can do. I won't be able to do it immediately, because I'm going to be busy through this period. But in the new year, when I'm freer, when I'm not socialising, so to speak, I'll take a look at your stuff and I'll get back to you. So you'll get some sort of reply from me the first or second week of the new year, expected. It won't be any earlier because I'm just flat out with too many things. I have to do some repairs at Dad's place as well, and I've got too many things on my plate that I've got responsibility for. So, but I will look into it at sometime in January. Just send it to me. Yep. And thanks, Neff. Appreciate it. Yeah. So I mean, this is another sort of another thing that I get sort of irritated in the carnivore community is that people don't realise is we're not like the tribal people. We've got a lot of genetic changes that have happened due to agriculture, thousands of years of agriculture, domestication, and all that, and they have caused these MTHFR differences, these retinol differences for Irish and people in the British Isles, as they're called, Ireland, the UK, and there's all these variations that exist. Northern China, Southern China, the choline sort of genetics and genetic synthesis and choline synthesis that people have that are differences, and that also affects. Am I getting these sort of foods or not, or getting sufficient choline? So for some Chinese, it's the complete reverse. They synthesize so much you don't need any, and others are the complete opposite. So there's all these variations that exist, and due to that, you need to basically take that into consideration as well. You know, no, I haven't. Harry, have you seen the new study on hair growth, intermittent fasting? It seems to implicate that leading to poor hair growth or loss of hair. Really? Doesn't seem to be affecting me because it's the nutrients, it's the nutrition. I mean, if you think about it, tribal people are intermittent fasting as well. They don't eat until midday and later in the afternoon because they don't have a fridge at home. Again, these studies are based on people who are on either SAD diets or regular diets or whatever, which are nutrient deficient. And so if they've got elevated insulin slightly and you can't get energy from from sufficient free fatty acids, guess what happens? Who else would? It's the repeat exactly. Exactly. And so was mine. I mean, as I showed you guys the other time, even though I've got genes for baldness and alopecia, that's all gone. You've got the situation where it's pretty much malnourishment that these people suffer. That's what it is, to say the least. No idea who you're talking about. Nathan? Jolene? Who's Jolene? Yeah, exactly. Just another bullshit thing with all their other bullshit about T3 and all that sort of stuff, which I've quite clearly shown in my recent videos on gallbladder and T3 and the thyroid and all that, how nonsensical all that is. I haven't had them argue, and they won't actually come and debate me or Bart, you know. So yes, if I'm a malnourished person fasts, I'm not surprised. Exactly, it's exactly that. And if people are eating sufficient, even if you're having one meal a day, if you're eating heaps and heaps, we know now from the Stuart Phillips studies, the university professor from Canada, and I've been saying this for ages that that peristalsis actually slows down. Guess what protein does? When you eat more protein, It actually increases, certain pathways in the gastrointestinal things. GLP-1, the hormone, not an agonist like some medication, but the actual hormone itself, GLP-1, is increased not by carbs or fat, but by protein. You eat more protein, what do? And that slows down also even the gut motility, so you can absorb it slower. That's the mechanism that Stuart Phillips hasn't worked out or hasn't explained. He's just said, it just slows down and you absorb the amino acids over a longer period of time, so you still get them. I've been saying that for ages. It can take up to 6 to 8 hours. That's exactly what happens with protein. It moves slower and you take it up. So there is not an excess protein that comes in. It just slows down and you take it in slower over more hours. That's all that's happening. And the mechanism is via GLP-1, which is also why they actually use an agonist. An agonist means something that it mimics, okay, for those who don't understand the sciencey stuff. And really, that's what the medication does. It actually slows. And the problem is it's excessive. And this is why they say that Ozempic and things like that can actually slow down your gut. So you can, if you can end up malnourished. Yeah, if you're eating the wrong foods. If the foods that actually require to be absorbed slower into the body, because that's the only way, because we don't have a storage place. We have a storage place for fats, we have a storage place for sugar. One's called glycogen, the other one is called fat cells. We do not have a storage place. We have what is called an amino pool in the bloodstream, and that and only a certain amount can be in the bloodstream at any one time to be utilized. Okay? Excessive amounts was believed in the past would be lost. That's why they say, you only need 30 to 40. Don't go any more per meal because it's going to end up in the bowl. No. Because of GLP-1, it slows down gut motility, exactly like Ozempic does. The difference is Ozempic, because you're eating shit diet, you're actually getting even less nutrition and you become undernourished and deficient on Ozempic, apparently, according to certain people. I can't claim that, obviously, because I would be spanked severely, but it's a GLP-1 agonist or that's behaving like that, slowing down gut motility, but that's fine for protein, eating an animal food, because you sit there and have one meal a day, eating, shitloads like tribal people do after they've got themselves a big animal. That you want that to be absorbed slowly so you can get all the nutrition over a number of hours. It's exactly how it works. So this whole nonsense that you're going to get blood sugar going, we've got me and Jonathan, who's, the guy, the muscle guy that does all the exercise and stuff like that. I've got his link for his channel, Carnival Muscle. And he basically won the British competition, and he was pushing right up beyond 4 grams per kilo body weight, and so certain biohacks ripping, So you think protein's going to create a whole lot of sugar and make you fat? That a bullshit. It does the complete opposite. So, that's absolute nonsense. And I actually promoted that from the beginning because I did, there was a rat study years ago. I think 3 or 4 years ago, there was a thing and Jonathan came across it and he was a subscriber of mine at the time and he goes, this makes sense. And I got him onto, and he's been using more of this and realised you don't need sugar. The last thing you want is sugar in the system. There's a biggest mistake bodybuilders make. You need more fat to be utilised so your body has energy to be able to do the processing and all that. So you can actually maximise the amount. A bit like Cordain was finding when he was doing the SAM people of the Kalahari, looking at their intake of 4 grams plus per kilo body weight. So those guys were lean and extremely muscular, but they had to go out in the desert under harsh conditions, even harder than bodybuilders have to do. That do 30-minute or an hour training. These guys were doing 4-5 hours of carrying heavy stuff through the bloody Kalahari and back again. Okay, that was how hard yakka. And these guys were built like absolute lean machines. So don't listen to the bullshit out there because it's just friggin' nonsense. All this stuff. Well, normally people didn't have that. Mine's photo bleaching, so mine goes dark, lighter. It varies all the time due to the sun. I'm out in the sun more, and it tends to photo bleach more than it used to before. In that regard, Taurine, thank you. Yeah, look, if you've got sensitivity, you've got sensitivity. It's just is one of those things. Sometimes if things improve, you may be able to reintroduce without. Yeah, it can help. I mean, I'll give you an example. Look at people who are like the Hadza. They're hunters and gatherers. Look at the sand people at Kalahari and all that. Look at the Inuit. Are they extremely tall? No. They are that sort of 170, like 5'8", 173, those sort of ranges. Why? Because meat and all that, while it gives you all the nutrients you need, it's not as anabolic. Who are the tallest people in the world? It's the dairy eating people. Look at the people that are the tallest. The Mongols are taller than the Chinese. The British people in the British Isles, the people in like the Maasai over 6 foot, the people in places like the Netherlands who are big dairy consumers as well. Some of the tallest people in the world. It's the dairy people that are some of the tallest people in the world. Why? Because of the higher leucine content. Should I say it again? Leucine content. Their diet is higher in leucine. That is why they are there. Also, it's slightly higher in taurine, which amplifies bone growth. Then, on top of that, they're getting also more calcium in their diet. So they're able to, remember, what is bone? Mineralized collagen. So add more calcium to the diet, you can build more bones. That is why these pastoral people, like the Indo-Europeans and all that, were big, fierce warriors and much bigger in size than even tribal people. Got it? So pastoral people are bigger. Just the reality. And so obviously these foods are going to provide that additional nutrient to push those growth pathways, which is what you need, the hormones, to signal to create new tissue, hair, bones, the whole lot. This is the difference, why these things help. Anyway, they are not accidental. Have you been around your shimmy? Just some love from Norway. Thanks, mate. Bart sends his regards. Good, good, good. Yes, yeah. Well, Bart's got a lot of work on his plate now that he's taken on a farm. Fucking hell. Anyway, that's not a hobby farm that he's got. It's a quite sizable piece of land that he's got that he's working on. So Anyway, he needs to train Ted up to work the tractor. That's his problem. Anyway, it's 1 o'clock. I do have to be somewhere soon, so I'm out of here. Thanks for being here. Appreciate all the support, all the questions. If people still got things they want to ask and all that, if they're still awake, in about 5 hours from now, there'll be the Eurasia live stream. You can see me there. You can ask me questions, or just leave, a comment, and I'll answer, later this week when I get a chance. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All your support. Take care, and Merry Christmas to you all, and Happy New Year to those who I won't see this afternoon. Thanks, Nathan. Take care, and we'll chat later. And Merry Christmas to you all, and Happy New Year. See yous.